Hello and welcome to the Indian Leadership Academy's Global Spiritual Leadership Conclave. If you just joined in, let me remind you, I'm Shivraj Prasad, and I join you from New Delhi as your host for this conclave on the theme Finding Freedom Through Spiritual Values on this momentous day, the 75th anniversary of India's independence. But a public service announcement, in case you find that you've suddenly gone offline, keep a lookout and keep your emails open on your phone because there will be an alternate link to the event just in case, because there are a lot of public events today. You happen to fall off this Zoom link.
Thank you, Shiv. And hello once again and welcome. I'm Manju Vishwam, joining you all the way from Hong Kong to co-create this event with Shivraj. I'm feeling really excited, and this is a very patriotic day too. And this is the right day to talk about leadership and finding freedom through spiritual values. So we would like to hear from you. How are you feeling today? Where have you logged in from? Please put in your messages in the chat box. Let your thoughts flow as well.
And while you're doing that, also, we are now live on our blog. You can join the conversation, leave your impressions, throw in maybe a feedback on what you hear from us. The link is in your chat box. So do open your chat box, check out the live blog link. And I can see a lot of people logging in from Bombay and Delhi and other cities as well. But as we get into the event, Dipti from Bangalore, Sangeeta from Chennai, Ahmedabad. So we've got quite a varied number of people from all over the country logging in from West Bengal, Seali, my batchmate from Bombay. So while we do that, I think it's very important, Manju, to get a sense of the idea behind holding the Global Spiritual Leadership Conclave. To do that, I wanted to call on stage Brigadier Arun Gupta, who's the head of international operations at the Indian Leadership Academy, who's worked tirelessly, I know, because he reached out to all of us to put this conclave together. Brigadier, are you there?
Yes, Shiv, I am very much here.
Thank you, Brigadier. What was the rationale and thinking behind creating the event, and why now?
Thank you, Shiv. Thank you, Manju. And first, I wish to welcome everyone, whosoever has logged in. We're going to get many more people from across the globe and some wonderful speakers we're going to have. The idea behind organizing such a conclave is that I think people don't understand the meaning of spirituality. There are a lot of myths carrying around. Especially the younger lot, probably they connect spirituality with religion. They think that spirituality would disengage them from their professional goals, or they need to give up all the materialistic comforts to be a spiritual. So I think it was the right time to tell everyone when we're going through such a challenging time that spirituality is a way of life. It has got nothing to do with a religion or most probably many of us would be already practicing spirituality, many aspects of spirituality. But once you get aligned to your values, your spiritual values, basically, and then you can focus more on that to get a clarity of your life, who you are, what you want in life, and how do you want to take it to your goals in life, personal as well as professional. So that was the idea behind organizing this.
And Brigadier, I can see that you've got an incredible lineup of amazing people from all over the world. What went on behind the scenes in connecting all the dots and all these people?
Firstly, I'll tell about the speakers. We have some wonderful and amazing speakers. There are very few people who are very clear about the spirituality, how we should go about it. We talk about corporate spirituality, we talk about spirituality at a workplace, leaders with spiritual values, but to tell them exactly how to go about it, I mean, talking on a wider range is everyone does that. But tell them exactly how to do that. We have some amazing speakers, and it took us a lot to connect with them. And we wanted to have people who have knowledge, who have clarity of the subject. And more than that, who can inspire the audience to imbibe these spiritual values and live their life, lead the people with spiritual values. Today is a Freedom Day. It is a 75th Independence Day, and that is why we kept this theme, that why not to get freedom with imbibing these spiritual values with us.
And Brigadier Arun, before we let you go, like you said, it's not just about discussing spiritual values, but actually giving everyone a sense of how to apply it to themselves. What is the one final message you wish to leave behind for participants at the end of today?
You know, I can define spirituality for me. You know, spirituality for me is when we are in sync with ourselves, as well as we are in sync with that life force energy, you know, that higher power that is there, which is moving this world. So I feel that after going through these 6 hours, listening to some wonderful speakers, people would have a clarity of all the myths that they are carrying about the spirituality. They'll get motivated to adopt the path of spiritual values, and they would be a better person first and then the better leader.
Brigadier Arun, thank you so much for providing that context and joining us. But I think what is awaiting everyone who's logged in is not just greater awareness, but also some very amazing gifts. Now, 3 active participants in the chat box, the live blogs and comments would also be rewarded. Why don't you tell us more, Manju, about what all the ILA team has sort of got in store for everyone who's logged in?
What we have in store is very interesting, Shivraj. It is all about spirituality, the spiritual values. Spirituality is about celebrating and finding that oneness amongst us. Now, you have talked about a lot of leaders before, leaders who brought us freedom, leaders who brought us freedom through governance, freedom for education, freedom to worship, and freedom for technological advancements. If you look at it, at all of them, there is one common aspect among all these leaders. What could that be? It is
absolutely. And I think what we're going to be doing is throwing up questions like that to everyone. We have a trivia on the confluence of spirituality and leadership, as you just spoke about. 3 winners of trivia and 3 active participants receiving amazing gift vouchers at the end of the session. Obviously, best gift to yourself would be active participation and support for this event. So now I'm going to hand over back to you, Manju, because you've got an exciting keynote to introduce.
Thank you, Shiv. I shall do that. So, as we spoke about the leaders who had a vision which is greater than themselves, which they thought is more human than the sensory experience. Now, coming up next is we have our keynote address from our chief mentor, Kaushik Mahapatra. He is the founder, chief mentor, and chairman of the Indian Leadership Academy. Kaushik is an award-winning international speaker, a top-selling author, India's top 10 corporate trainer and coach, the leadership coach. His book, Are We Leading? We saw just now, is a top seller in Amazon. So please put your hands together for Kaushik Mahapatra.
Thank you, Manju. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. Everyone. Happy Independence Day to everyone. Happy Independence Day. I can see a lot of people. Very good. Happy Independence Day again. Happy Independence Day again. I'm sure you're enjoying your day and you are about to begin a new journey. You're about to begin a new journey. You'll never know. You'll be learning something from this. And life might change. How many of you agree? How many of you agree? Show of hands. How many of you agree? Show of hands. How many of you agree? Friends, they say, if you want to be really spiritual, spirituality starts with a smile. And on that note, I want everyone to smile a bit, smile a bit, smile a bit. Come closer, come closer, come closer, come closer, come closer, and smile a bit. I want to see your smile. I want to see your smile. Come closer, my dear friends. Come closer, come closer. I can see now everyone smiling. That's about it, my dear friends. Spirituality indeed begins with smile. Spirituality is all about being kind to each other. Spirituality is all about spreading the care and connect. Gone are those days when people used to command and control. It's all about care and connect, my dear friends. Spirituality is about honesty. Spirituality is about simplicity. And spirituality is about you and me, my dear friends. If spirituality is about oneness, we are here to make it happen. Only we can make it happen. We are all united by spirituality, but divided by countries. And together we can do it. Arunji was talking about myths about spirituality. When I started my journey, spirituality journey back in 2008, I was confused, frankly speaking. And today in this keynote, I wanted to share a little bit about my journey. In 2008, when I started searching, soul searching for spirituality, I got confused. People talked about soul, people talked about spirit, people talked about manifestation, people talked about cosmos, people talked about nirvana, and people talked about everything which I had no clue. In fact, for 1 year, I was trying to find out what's the difference between soul and spirit. And no one was able to give me a great answer. I realized that if spirituality is so good, why don't we have so great spiritual teachers who can make things very simple for us? Every time I went to a spiritual teacher, things were so complicated for me, and it took me a lot of time to learn and start practicing a little bit of it. And I felt that a little bit of it can change your lives. So my dear friends, you don't get confused. Don't worry, they're great spiritual teachers. It's just that we don't know what we don't know. And somebody will tell us. Like in Bhagavad Gita, they say, when the student is ready, the master will appear. And the master appears from somewhere. You don't even know, my dear friends. So make your spiritual journey and learning a lot of fun. While I'm in this keynote, I wanted to talk about 5 myths which people are surrounded with and they get confused. As Arunji said, the first one, spirituality is all connected to religion. Yes, spirituality is connected to religion, to God in some ways, but that's the only first level, my dear friends. The second level is your connectivity to nature. The third level is your connectivity to yourself. And the fourth level is your connectivity to this cosmos, which we also call it as the universe. There are various levels of this spirituality, and it is not just about religion, my dear friends. So forget about this myth now. It's not about religion. It's about we, you and me, and it's about these levels. The second myth, I have always heard that spirituality is only for old and aged. And when I started young, I said, oh man, I'm still young. I'm considering myself still young by now. And I was actually searching for a teacher. Can I have fun and also learn spirituality? And some of them said, no, you have to be very serious. If you're not serious, you cannot learn spirituality. You cannot lead your life spiritually. And I always used to oppose. Why? Why can't I? For spirituality, I don't want to give my fun and excitement. And I realized that spirituality is all about giving your life fun and excitement. So who said that spirituality is all about you being serious and it's for aged? It's for everyone, my dear friends. If you are exposed to spirituality at your young age, you are the most happiest. You're the most luckiest. In your 20s, in your 10s, in your 30s, in your school, getting exposed to spirituality, that can be the greatest gift. And that way, that myth is now gone in me. The third one, if you are spiritual, you have to give every position in your life. You have to give back your family. You have to give back your money. You have to give everything. No, my dear friends. When you're spiritual, you'll attract more and more. It's not about giving back. Yes, people talk about being isolated, right? Spending time with yourself so that you can get that actualization, right? But that's about it. You don't have to give back anything. You don't have to give back anything. The fourth one, my dear friends. Any guesses? What's the fourth myth? What's the fourth myth? Very common one, by the way. Very common one. A very common one. People from corporates, they say spirituality and business cannot go hand in hand. If you are spiritual, you will never be able to attract money. Who said that, my dear friends? The more spiritual you are, the more money you can attract. Money is also a means for life. And life is all about being spiritual. And in today's world, we talk about corporate spirituality. We talk about corporate spiritual responsibility. And I'm going to talk about in my talk later today, that how having a corporate spiritual responsibility can change things for you, even when you're working, when you're in your business. And the fifth one, the fifth myth, what people say is spirituality, there is no logic in spirituality. Spirituality is no science. My dear friends, spirituality is one of the biggest sciences. It's logical. And it's very simple, by the way. And I'm going to ask you before I leave and give it to Shiv and Manju, I'm going to ask you this. They say, if you have to learn spiritual science, you have to learn this formula. And this formula is very simple. In spiritual words, we call it G by T ratio. G by T ratio. And G by T is very simple. How much you have given and how much you have taken. How much you have given to this society, to this universe, to the nature, to your family, to your employees, and how much you have taken from them. If your G by T is greater than 1, what if your G by T is greater than 1? What if your G by T is greater than 1? You will be most happiest. It's a sense of great feeling, saying, wow, I've given more than I've taken from this world. So before I leave, I want to know, what is your G by T? Can you write it in the chat box? Is it greater than 1, equal to 1, or less than 1, or less than equal to 1? Who can tell me? By the way, a lot of people say, right, spiritual coaches talk very, very slow. Hi, my name is Kaushik. I am your spiritual coach. Not like that. Not like that, my dear friends. So you might see some speakers talking like that. You might see some speakers talking loudly, right? That's fine. It's all about expressing ourselves. And I feel we all are spiritual coaches. We all have spiritual power, and we can lead our life spiritually. So I can see a lot of equal to ones, greater than ones. I'm very, very happy, right? You are all greater than 1, and somebody who's less than 1. Don't worry. You're acknowledging that you have taken more than what you've given, and it's your time now to give it back to the society and to this universe. With that, a big round of applause for all of you for being part of. I can see 179 participants. I'm very happy to see all of you, and I'm very happy to see all our speakers. Manmeet is already here. Right, I've heard a lot about our speakers, and it'll be an honor to hear from you today and learn from you today. I'm going to make a lot of notes. I would request all of you to make a lot of notes. Be very positive, be very open to learning, and keep growing spiritually. Keep growing, guys. Jai Hind. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Kaushik. And as Kaushik mentioned, we're talking about the G to T ratio, Manju, and there's a lot that the Indian Leadership Academy is also giving away to people who've logged in. So without much ado, we just hand over to the ILA team, Neha and Kiran, who are stepping in with something special. Neha?
Thank you, Shivraj, and good afternoon, all. I am Neha, a disciple of modern spirituality, and
And I am Kiran, a disciple of ancient spirituality.
we welcome you all to this supernal soul-touching event.
Namaste.
Since it's a journey of the freedom through spirituality, we will be taking you through back in the ancient spirituality and bring you into the modern wisdom and modern spirituality. So how are we planning to do this, Kiran?
We will be asking you a couple of questions with 4 options on your screen. You will get 20 seconds to type your answer in the chat box, and fastest finger first will get a chance to win exciting prizes.
Wow, that sounds exciting, Kiran.
Absolutely. So what are we waiting for? Let's go back in time. So your first question is, I am an ancient Chinese philosopher and poet, a legendary figure in Taoism. Who am I? And your options are Chuang-Tzu, Lao Tzu, Confucius, or Mencius. And your time has already begun.
And Kiran, I see lots of people, before even we could announce the options, people have started giving their answers. We had Sally who answered first, and people are active, and they're absolutely amazing.
Well, this just goes to show that we have an active audience, and they are learned in spirituality for sure.
Yes, and we have already received more than 50 responses, and yes,
Wow.
they're still pouring in. And there is time which ends. And let's see what's the right answer.
And the right answer, like most of you guessed correctly, is Lao Tzu. Tao Te Ching is one of his most significant treatises in Chinese cosmology. Let's move a little bit further in our timeline and come to our next question. So alchemy is a system of natural healing and self-empowerment, a path of contemporary spirituality and well-being in an ex-civilization. Identify what is X. Is it Mesopotamia, ancient India, Egyptian, or Roman? Well, yes, we do have few people
And
who get
yes,
it right.
and the answers are pouring in, Kiran. And wow, a lot of them have given right answer.
Yes, for sure, Manju.
Excellent. A lot of people know about alchemy. I got to hear about it for the first time while I was researching for this trivia.
Me too. When I was, trying to learn more about spirituality, this is something that I came across.
Yes, and we can see there are people who are still answering, but the time ends here. And now let's see what's the right answer.
I think a lot of guesses were correct. It is Egyptian civilization. Well, thank you so much for the active participation. We will come back with more exciting questions in the upcoming sections, giving it back to Shiv and Manju.
Thank you so much, Neha and Kiran. And of course, we'll announce winners. But let's go on to our first speaker of the day, Dr. Manmeet Kumar. We will always grow if we let the light guide us. That's the mantra of our next speaker, Dr. Manmeet Kumar. She's an avant-garde spiritualist, an enlightened soul master. And what really stood out for me in her profile is that she's also a gifted psyche and medium who helps law enforcement find missing people. And she really is someone who has taken spirituality to the next level. She's led leadership positions. She's spoken at forums and corporate events, and she's well engaged with senior leaders for shadow and transformation work. So over to you, Dr. Manmeet.
Thanks, Shivraj. Thank you, Brigadier Arun. Thanks, Kaushik. And this is a brilliant platform. I can't tell you how excited I am to know that finally corporates are going to welcome spirituality, and each and every one of you who's here proves that we are all moving in the direction of oneness. Just to give you a small background, I was in the corporate world for 20 years. And officially I stepped into the spiritual world 5 years ago. And I realized that it is quite disorganized and there is nowhere to go if you were a psychic, which I suddenly had a spiritual awakening. And I realized that I'm getting information about girls who've been kidnapped in New York. And I didn't know who to pass that information to. And I didn't know if India had psychics or there was a platform. Certainly there was no certification or any path. And I decided to change it all. And here I am. But it gives me immense joy to be connected to people from my old life, which is the corporate life. So a big welcome and thank you for be willing to hear me. I think Kaushik has spoken about what spirituality is, and so has Brigadier Arun. And my topic, the one that intrigued me the most, was Chanakya. And we all know that Chanakya was a brilliant economist and a writer. He wrote the Arthashastra. And maybe I should have had it as one of my questions for all of you, that what was the book that he wrote. What intrigues me and what has always led my mind into this field is a simple thing. Why do we do what we do? Whatever we do. You could be a part of a corporate, you could be a guru, you could be a coach, you could be a homemaker, you could be a student. Right. So when I read about Chanakya, and I've been in the corporate world and now in this world, the first thing that I want to say is that when kings were trained all those centuries ago, what stood out and the difference between them and leaders today. And when I say leaders, we don't all have to be CXOs. We can be leaders and managers in our own right, in our own homes. So when I say leaders, all of us are leaders. Right? The biggest thing that I found that Chanakya did or said, that kings were made. Of course, we all know kings were born as well because they had the whole kingdom to themselves. But do you know that Chandragupta Maurya was actually formed by Chanakya, trained by him? And he, under Chanakya's wisdom, took the Maurya Empire to the next level. So what was so great about this? The first thing that stood out for me was the fact that kings or leaders at that time knew why they were doing it. Why is the big question. Why are you doing what you're doing? When I talk to CEOs, I talk to leaders, they say, oh, it's because it's my job. Well, no, right? What if the king looked at his kingdom or fighting a war as a job? How would that be? So the why is very important. Why are you a coach? Why are you a healer? Why are you a corporate professional? You can't be here just because you didn't find anything else. You chose this, right? So every day, I think one thing to do in the morning is to remind ourselves, why are we here? What is it about us that brings us to the purpose? The purpose today, the life purpose today, is something that is overlooked. I wouldn't say it's missing, but it's overlooked. Can I also, in my very practical way, give you a couple of tips? So that would be nice if you could practice some of them. It would help you in the longer run. And I'll be very happy if you would like to reach out to me to understand some of it more. So the first tip that I want to say is that if you don't know your why, please write your why. I'm sure a lot of you have mentors and coaches and people you go to. Please talk to them, brainstorm, what is your why? Why are you where you are? And what really distinguishes what you do from the other people who do the same thing? Do you want to make a difference to people's lives? Do you want to spread the light? Do you want to talk about your ideas? So Chanakya said that if you don't know the why actually describes a good leader. The second thing that he said, which I think has become so much more prevalent, he said that a fearless king can lead the country. And one of the things that, especially after this incident, the pandemic, one thing that has become part of our DNA is fear. Yes, you would agree with me? Can anybody tell me in chat, what is the root cause of fear? What is the root cause of fear? In one word, what is the root cause of fear? Why are we so afraid? Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The reason why we are all so afraid of fear is because we want to control everything. We even want to control death. You know, I'm also a medium. When people come to me to talk to departed spirits, they say, you know, only if we had taken him to this hospital, only if we had done this. Are we trying to say that we could have prevented it? Really? Something like death? But we would like to think so, right? With all of the modern science and everything, we like to think that we can control death. We like to control reactions from people. We like to control how the day will pan out. We like to control how things are going to unfold. If we are getting our children married to somebody, we would like to control how that person behaves towards our children. How the class teacher should behave towards a young child. Yes or no? Do you agree that we have become absolute control masters? Yeah. And because of that, the acceptance to everything is very less. The acceptance to death, the acceptance to life, the acceptance to what is going to happen or what is not going to happen is very less. So a leader, till he is fearless, what is the worst that will happen? In ancient times, the king would die. And do you know all the kings would prefer to die rather than surrender? You remember all those stories that we read about? So the opposite is true here. Here we don't have to die. The whole idea about letting go of fear is to surrender and have faith that the universe has our back. There's a very good book by Gabriel Bernstein that says the universe has your back. And please do read it in case you find time and you find value. It's a very, very well-written book about the fact that, you know, the process of life supports us. And that is what spirituality teaches. But we don't believe it. We think we have to control everything. We have to do everything. If we don't do it, it's not going to happen. Yes or no? We come from a doing culture. We come from a culture of deprivation, where if we don't grab that seat, somebody else is going to sit on it. Yes? So if you are a leader and if in your vibration there is fear, it's going to get passed on. So the second part of what Chanakya said was that the energy of the king, the energy of the kingdom or the energy of the army is equal to the energy of the king. So tell me, when people say, ma'am, our business is not doing well, or when Kaushik goes to corporates and trains them, the first thing I think he tells people is, work on your vibration, work here, work here, work here. So spirituality is a way of being, right? We've put that in order, that spirituality is a way of being. One way of being is being fearless. It doesn't mean that nothing is going to happen to you, but it does mean that you know that you're going to deal with it. So can I give you one tip on dealing with fear? And I think it's going to make a lot of sense. You can play this game even in your home with your children. And this game is called What If? So if someone says, this is going to happen, I turn around and say, okay, so it happens then. What if it happens? Okay, then, you know, and then, and then, and then. And after 2 or 3 thens, everyone starts laughing. Try doing it, you will laugh, because the third scenario is absolutely something that you also know is never going to happen. But we are so fearful. Play it with your team. Ask your managers that, what if this happens? Ma'am, then we'll lose revenue. Okay, then what will happen if we lose revenue? We'll make it again. And then what happens if we had never, we'll be thrown out of the market. Okay, we are thrown out of the market. We'll start something else. Yes or no? Are we going to come on the streets? And even if we come on the streets, don't we have this? So I think people way back then were fairly grounded, and they knew that if nothing else, then this, you could work with your hands, right? So what if this happened? You know, but what are we most scared of? Anybody. And I would like to give a prize for the person who tells me, what are we really, truly scared of? What are we truly scared of? No, we are not scared of death, Anil. No, we are not scared of losing. No, yes, yes. Who was this who said people's judgments? This person gets a prize from my side, whoever it was. Sally, yay. Absolutely. So you and I connect after this. We are extremely afraid of being judged. Extremely. What is this person going to say? Oh my God, you were a coach. You couldn't even handle this much. Really? Oh man, but you're supposed to be enlightened. How did you lose your cool? Right? It's the fear of judgment that's holding you there. So what if you're judged? They're going to gossip about you then. And then. And then, are you so important? Wow, you're so important. People are going to talk about you for months. Really? I don't think so. So what is there to fear? And whatever's going to happen is in any case going to happen, right? So kings at that time had that courage here. One of the pillars of spirituality at Soul Miracles, we say, is courage. Courage doesn't mean nothing will go wrong and to try and control and prevent what could go wrong. Courage is about saying, I'll deal with it when I come to it. I know my God is there with me. I know my higher self is there with me, and let's do it. Another tip for this, which you must do, is to pray for 5 minutes before you sleep. And prayer, and before you sleep, because your subconscious mind is registering everything at night. So before you sleep, if you're only to say, God, just have my back, whatever you show me, give me the ability to handle it. That's it. And you're taken care of, totally taken care of. Yes. So that's the other thing that that he said. So fear of failure is another thing. And like I said, what if you fail? And so what, and so what, and so what? We have another fear. One more thing that I would like to tell you. We have a fear of public speaking, or what if I go wrong in front of people? If that happens, what you must do, and what can you do? You can just go to the washroom and come back, right? You don't have like trees and nature and parks. So what are you going to do? 30-second tip. Block your right nostril and breathe in and out through your left nostril. Block it like this and go. So it's not alternate breathing. It's just blocking your right nostril. Can you block it? And let's see. And take 5 breaths. And as you're doing it, keep doing it. You will see your nervous system totally coming down. Your parasympathetic nervous system is going to relax, and it is going to make you one of those people that Kaushik was saying, they speak very slowly. So if you want to speak slowly, and if you want to become a little more calm down and fearless, then the left nostril is the way to go. Sometimes we just have 30 seconds, right? Before the boss puts us on the spot and says, bolo. So yeah, that's something that will help all of you. Chanakya also said, and I'm sure you've read, don't tell your secrets to anyone. Remember? And what do we do as a drama-based society? The moment we have an apprehension around anything, or any kind of a new thing comes our way, we pick up the phone. You know what? Yes or no? Yes. Now, I'm not against sharing information, but all I'm saying is many times people do it because of spiritual non-sufficiency. We are not anymore a sufficient spiritual ecosystem within our own selves. We have this need for validation, the need for approval. We have a need for knowing how good we are, right? You know, this happened and I still did this, and this happened and I handled it like this. You know what I'm saying? So many times, so when Chanakya says that be spiritually sufficient here, and one big tip for spiritual sufficiency, okay, I'm going to tell you, is definitely meditation, knowing your own self. Sounds really very boring. So let's do the interesting one. And I'm going to invite you to do it tonight. The tip is called release work. Release work is all about writing down what's in your mind, the pros, the cons, the what you fear, what's going wrong, what if this happened, what if this didn't, and all of that you want to discuss with someone, right? So when you write it down, after that, you burn the paper away. And then the next day you do it again. Now, sometimes impatient people want to do it multiple times in the same day, and that is great as well, right? Just do it. And after some time, you'll be empty. Now, the problem is that we don't know what to do when we are empty. What to do? Now we are empty. We are not used to being empty. We are used to doing something. What will we do if we are empty? Think about it. You'll get extremely agitated. Because over the years, we have become a society of doing. And one big quality of a leader is knowing how to be. So being is very difficult because we've had our routines and timetables chalked out from when we were very young. Give us an hour of doing nothing, and my students say, ma'am, in the nothing, what do we have to do? So I'm like, nothing. Okay, so you mean we have to listen to music? No, nothing. Oh, okay, you mean no screen. Never mind. So should we do our release work in that time? I said, no, do nothing. Trust me, the do nothing has no comprehension only with people. Because we don't know how to do nothing. If your children are getting bored, kindly let them get bored. Do not produce distractions for them to do something. Just because we don't know how to do nothing, we are always agitated at every trigger. Someone tells me something, now it's my action-oriented mind that says, pass it on to this, pass it on to that. But as a great leader, you have to be a reservoir of information. So you settle that down, right? Through meditation, through practice, you settle it down. Then you review the situation, match it with the files in your brain, with your experience, with your knowledge, and then come to a solution. You think kings went to multiple kings to pick up the phone and tell them, you know, someone's attacked me. What do you think I should do? Or, you know, someone's tried to poison me. What say? What should I do? It's not like that, right? So let's be spiritually self-sufficient. Let's be an ecosystem where we are able to calm ourselves down to an extent that we can look at the problem objectively without relying on people for either approval or solutions. And the last thing that I'm going to say is that whenever you are looking, whenever you're troubled about something, instead of looking forward, we always try to wonder why it happened to us. Why have we landed here? So when people come to me and say, you know, our marriage is not going well, or I'm not able to get a job. Why am I not able to get a job? Or why is my marriage not going well? Yes, sure. Or why did I get COVID? My first thing is, first, let's move ahead, right? Now you've got this, let's find a solution. We are always more in the problem than we are in the solution. No king could afford it in the old times. Kings had to take immediate decisions, yes? Imagine if a king said, why has this happened in my kingdom? Why are people talking negatively about me? No, he had to take decisions. So let's be more in the solutions mode rather than always questioning why. You know why? Because we love to place the blame on someone. And people way back then didn't do that. So in our life, it's because of someone. It's either your parents who got you wrong, or your teachers who made you like this, or that college you couldn't go to, or that person you married, or what couldn't happen, or the fact that you were not recognized in your first job, or the decisions that you made. And if everything was fine, and if it's nobody's fault, then it's God's fault or your destiny's fault. Yes? Kisi ki to galti hai. Someone's at fault. Who is at fault? So we are very busy with all of that. We are extremely busy with whose fault it is. And I think kings at that point in time did not brood about all of this. They went into a solution mode and they went into a rectification mode in the second stage. But in the first stage, they said, let's solve for it. So these are some of the things that I wanted to share. And it's interesting, if you wanted to read Arthashastra, you would be able to draw a lot of parallels from Chanakya's life into your life and know that the stuff that was valid then is still the stuff that is valid now. And I would like to end this by saying that we are not on earth because of a coincidence. It is not that our parents started a family and we were born. There is a pre-birth plan before we came here. Our souls have decided the purpose of our life before we came here. Some of us are still looking for that purpose. Many of us have found that purpose. Many of us are well into that purpose, right? So we have a pre-birth plan. We are not here by chance. And it's good if you know your pre-birth plan. People who are leaders, who are passionate leaders, who work from here, are people who are led by the soul. You will hear a lot about mind, body, soul kind of a thing. But mind, body, soul is how we are operating, with mind on top. But spirituality says, be led by the soul. So soul is about spirit, is about purpose, is about the reason why you're here. That should dictate your mind to do the things that you're meant to do. And that is how your body has to behave. Some people here are led by body. What my body wants, what do I want to eat, what kind of body experiences I want to have. Yeah. And then the mind creates those body experiences and soul is lost. Many people, especially in the corporate world, are led by the mind, are led by the execution, right? Are led by efficiencies, processes. Nothing wrong with that. But if we have the right guide, which is our own soul, our higher power, our inner power, that is something that will take us in the right direction. So with the mind, you're going fast, running. But is that the direction you were meant to go? Was that your pre-birth plan? Or were you meant to go right and you're running left with faster and faster efficiencies? So the mind has to follow the direction of the main coach, who is your soul. So let's combine. I would always say, and I'm a microbiologist by education, I would say, let's combine science and spirituality. Let's combine corporate and spirituality. Let's combine everything with spirituality, because spirituality is just a way of being. It is a conscious awareness that you are here for a reason. And that's how your talks, your conduct, the activities you choose to do in this world should be in line with what your purpose is. That is what is going to keep you satisfied, happy, and not looking for answers. Thank you very, very much. I hope this was of value and you enjoyed yourself, and maybe one or two tips or tools you could deploy in your daily life. I would love to hear from you, if at all that is something that is permissible by ILA. And you can reach me through them as well. Thank you very much, Brigadier Arun. Thank you, Kaushik. Thank you, Riti. And thank you, Shiv.
So much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manmeet. There's so many tips that you've given. And I think Chanakya, being a master strategist, always was someone that everyone lent on to give that connection between body, mind, and the strategy and being fearless. And thank you for those tips, and also those tools that we can use to be fearless ourselves and really be aware of who we are. Thank you so much, Dr. Manmeet. Now, moving on, we also have Ritu from Indian Leadership Academy. But before that, a message. If you look at your chat box, there will be a link to a live blog. So whatever you've heard from Dr. Manmeet, the tips, the way you can maybe even reach, you can maybe write in on the live blog your impressions. And as you can see, the ILA team has just popped up with those details. We'd love to hear from you. Also, we're live on YouTube. You can also leave feedback on Facebook and Google. Now it's over to Ritu from the ILA team to give us a special message. Ritu?
Thank you, Shiv. Thank you so much. A very good afternoon to all of you. And I really thank all of you to join us today afternoon from different parts of the world. I hope you all are really having a good time listening to, our spiritual gurus. Just a brief on Indian Leadership Academy. Indian Leadership Academy is a 5-year-old organization. And we have been working towards creating global leaders through knowledge and wisdom. And we definitely have evolved in last 5 years. And we have worked with 200 plus different corporates. We have done more than 1,300 programs. And over to you, Ankita, now to speak more about the journey.
So ILA is here to simplify your journey of unleashing the real leader in you. And we do that through our different programs. So let's just take 2 minutes time to understand the kind of programs we offer.
So our signature program, International Training and Coaching Certification, is one of its type. It's the only integrated course available in India as of now. It's scheduled on 21st of August and finishes on 25th of September. It's a 6 weekends course. And it's priced at 45,000 plus GST. However, for people who are here and have joined us for the Global Spiritual Leadership Conclave, the pricing has been reduced and it's priced at 30,000 INR or 410 USD.
Coach the Coach certification course. It's a weekend program to start your coaching journey with the top coaching accreditation body, ICF. On the completion, you are awarded with CCA certificate from ICF, and the upcoming batch of this program is starting on 21st of August. Regular price of this program is 15,000 INR or 205 USD. But for all of you, it's available today at the special price of 10,000 INR and 135 USD.
Our next program is Soft Skills Training Certification course. This program is designed for people who are starting their journey into training and coaching. It's scheduled for the 23rd of August. It's a 7 days program. And during the week, it's from 6 p.m. till 9 p.m. And the one weekend it consists of, it's full days, both the days. This program is priced at 20,000 plus GST. However, for the attendees of this program, the pricing has been reduced to 15,000 INR or 200.
Then we have our NLP with mindfulness program. It's a powerful combination with NLP and mindfulness, in which you are taught for 2 weekends. And then after that, 1 month for weekdays, you will be having sessions to kind of, master those techniques of NLP and mindfulness. And as you finish, you will be getting the certifications from Skills Central UK. And the upcoming batch of this program is starting from 28th of August. The regular pricing of this program is 17,000 INR or 230 USD. But the special price for this Global Leadership Conclave is going to be for 12,000 INR and USD 160.
Thank you, Ankita. I would request all of you to check your chat box. We have the link pasted there for people who want to register for these programs. You can pay a minimum amount and register for this program through one link, and the other link is for anybody who wants to pay the full amount and register as well. So thank you, everybody. We look forward to seeing you in all these courses, which are scheduled by the end of this month. And over to Shiv and Manju.
Thank you, Ritu and Ankita, for that information. I hope it will be useful for all of you. So, are you there with your active participation at the chat box and the live blogging? Are you there? Shall we have a thumbs up? How is it going? Great. All right, that's so nice to hear from everyone. Again, the chat box is very active. So next, did you know that spirituality has some sounds too? Just like a live being, the spiritual sounds. So coming up next is the ILA's Delhi NCR chapter to enlighten us with the different spiritual sounds or the spiritual circle. Please welcome Rajesh Kumar from Delhi ILA NCR chapter. Over to you, Rajesh ji.
Rajesh, you're on mute.
I'm unmuted now. Am I audible? Sam, am I audible?
Yes, Rajesh. Yes.
All right. All right.
Yes,
Good afternoon, all of you, ladies and gentlemen, trainers and coaches. This is a lovely afternoon, the Freedom Day, and a very, very happy Independence Day to all of you. It is my proud privilege to bring to you this program, which we have curated together as the lead of Delhi NCR. And today we are going to talk about sound, the spiritual sound. What happens when you hear a sound? There's some sounds which make you very peaceful and it's very pleasant. And there are some sounds which are not pleasant at all. So sound has got a connect with your inner self. More precisely, sound has got connect with your being and your soul. And how it happens, Kaushik busted 5 myths in his keynote address, and one of the very important one, which was the last one, was that spiritualism is not a science, or it's actually a science, but it is done very artistically. And we are going to talk about the sounds, which are spiritual. They are received by your mind, but processed by your senses. And finally, they transform into vibrations, different kinds of vibrations. And then they finally take a shape of something which is very soothing and very calming to you. And this is what we are going to talk about, the sound. Ultimately, the higher level of sound is sound of silence. And the first sound which we are going to talk about today is a singing bowl, a Tibetan singing bowl. If Nitin, you could move the slide forward. This is how it looks like, the Tibetan singing bowl. This started about 6,000 years back in Far East, and it gives uh, a lot of pleasure to your inner self. It is made out of 5 or 7, in fact, alloys, which have got the qualities of giving peace to yourself. And it is also, it gives you spiritual and physical and mental calmness. So in the next 15 or 20 minutes, the Delhi NCR team is going to make you listen to 5 sounds. The first one is the Tibetan bowl, which I will invite you to think about it, that when you listen to this sound, slowly it goes to a level of silence. And when you reach that, when you can listen to the silence, you listen to your soul. And here we are. Come, let's listen to our soul with the help of this Tibetan single bowl. Nitin, are we moving forward? One more, 2 more. Let's listen to this Tibetan sounding singing bowl. Imagine it's doing something to your soul. These sounds raise your level of awareness and enable you to lead, with all the wisdom. You reach that level of wisdom with these sounds. And when it reaches the silence level, you connect to your soul. And that's how you lead better. The next one is going to be by Nitin himself.
All right. So thank you, Rajesh. Thank you so much. And hello, guys. How are you? Happy Independence Day to everyone once, first of all. And thank you for joining in. I saw somewhere around 200 participants at one point in time. I think they're more than enough. So today I'm going to talk about the nature sounds. I think one of the most important things I discovered when I was studying about it. I went to beaches, I went to mountains, I went to the wildlife, but never thought about it that it's gonna, help spiritually as well. So if you look at few thoughts by a few very, very known people like Rolf, like John, and Albert Einstein on my screen. They have gone. They're not the spiritual leaders, but obviously they have some kind of spiritual intensity in their leaderships. So what I'm going to talk about today is the nature sound. So with this, I just wanted to ask you guys, who is your favorite spiritual leader? Any spiritual leader you inspires you? Anyone you want to answer? Anyone, guys?
Nitin, they are answering in the chat box. Dalai Lama, Sadhguru, Daisaku
Dalai
Ikeda,
Lama.
Sadhguru. Amazing.
Yeah, Osho. Then you have
Dandapani.
PK Shivani. Yeah. So so it's very, very important to understand how sounds play an important role in spirituality. So brawling river, chirping crickets, and a crackling fire, everything has some or the other significance. And it is proven that if you are spiritually inclined, your brain works in a very positive way. Exposure to natural sounds are important for human health and well-being. Very, very important point. And obviously, it helps us to increase attention. It lessens pain, anxiety. It lowers the stress levels. It improves your mood, enhances cognitive performance. So these are few very, very important points. And I've seen and studied that if you are spiritually inclined, nature sounds create a lot of impact, a positive impact on your health and your well-being. And obviously, it reduces stress. So we have seen a lot of movie directors, a lot of authors, a lot of painters going out, in the nature and creating those amazing things, like amazing new movies, amazing paintings, and the creativity of the mind comes from that. So very, very important point. And for a spiritual leader also, to make sure that he doesn't always gets into the facts and figures and numbers, and should understand that an employee can be a creative employee, which can work in a different way altogether. So here I am just mixing the two. It stimulates out of the box thinking and active brain network. It's a study which is done by one of the US colleges, which has shown that when an MRI was done on a person who's hearing the natural sound and somebody hearing an artificial sound, the natural sound hearing ability and the person who's hearing that, he has the more networking in the brain. The MRI has registered that. So that means your out of the big box thinking stimulates when you go out in the nature and when you hear these sounds. So it's important for a spiritual leader. And you've seen all the spiritual leaders. I see BK Shivani a lot, and I always see her sitting in the midst of a valley or near to the mountain with birds chirping and all. So yeah, it is very, very important. And I think, next time when I'm going to the beach or you're going to the beach, just try to listen everything around. It helps you in outward direction, not the inward direction. There are two directions of mind: outward direction, inward direction. And it always helps your focus of attention. So you can move your focus of attention to the thing which is more important, right? Should not stick to it. These sounds help you to identify your brain network in such a way. It helps you to lead to transformation, not to production. Very, very important. We have seen, and we must all have noticed, whenever we go out in a jungle or we go out to these places, we see a lot of transformation happening. A climate change is a transformation, but the jungle adopts it. The moving sound is a transformation. The river, which is not able to flow because of some obstacle, transforms and moves to a certain different direction, is a transformation. They focus on transformation, the natural sounds, as what the spiritual leaders. Obviously, it impacts the atmosphere. Delhi is too hot today. I don't know if it is raining somewhere else. The moment you hear the voice of the rain, your mood will get into having some pakoras and tea, right? So, and if a spiritual person enters a room, automatically the room, everyone starts smiling, the tension reduces. So spirituality and the natural sounds has a very, very collaborative impact. Obviously helps people to perceive new things in older things. And I'm so sorry, I'm getting out of time. Just the last point. Very, very important and close to my heart is intrinsic motivation, which is very, very important for a spiritual leader to transfer to the employee, which the natural sounds gives you. You know, it's everything around. You just need to breathe in, and you have to think from the mind, from your heart, and from your gut. So the gut feeling comes from the overall surrounding and how you hear it. So hear good, talk good, and listen good. So that's about it. I'm just gonna show a quick small video. I really want you to take you all to the jungle to witness this, but I can only show you here because there's some limitations right now. So just try to listen the sound. Try to listen. Obviously, if you I'm not gonna speak now. Just listen. Sam, are we out of time?
We are still there. We can.
So that's about it, guys. Thank you so much, and I will hand it over to Sam from now, and try to explore this. This is very, very important, and you will love it when you do it yourself. That's a suggestion. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nitin. Thank you so much. And definitely, there's nature sound. It's basically, it can really put our stress level and really put us in a positive set of mindset. Okay, so I will be talking about conch blowing. Now, conch is basically, it is significant in many cultures, Indian culture, as well as you will see Hawaiian, some local tribal cultures in the world, they've been using conch. Now, conch has shank. In Sanskrit, we call it shank. So when you blow conch, even before you start something important, we do blow, conch to make it auspicious. So why it is like that? Because it emits divine frequencies, and it is being tested. And they have found out that these frequencies are of highest color spectrum, and it was on the highest level. So it does improve that, and all the negative energies, it tries to clear it out. Then it makes atmosphere conducive for spiritual growth. When you have, when you blow conch, it's basically, it makes the, it clears out the negative energy, and it makes the spiritual growth more, you go towards spiritual learning, put your mind into that, enhances positive psychology. Now, this is very important. When you blow the conch, it's basically, it brings your attention back. That's a very, very important thing. And it puts you in a blissful state. So it actually transforms your mind state. Then it helps correcting stammering. Now, this, I really feel that this happens because yesterday we were trying to practice this, to do it, a live demo. And while doing it, I did it for 10 to 15 times. I blew this one, but it is not coming in Zoom, that sound. Basically my jawline and my cheeks, it's hurting today. So it is actually, it does help on your facial muscles, and extremely beneficial. They did even the studies during the last year, when we are in, and this year, when we are in pandemic, blowing conch really helps you to improve your respiratory system, because it is a kind of like, you are blowing out in a pressure in that particular, in conch, So it is definitely, it helps your respiratory system. So imagine 3 times in morning and 3 times in the evening. If you do it, it's like you're exercising your lungs every day. 6 times, So definitely, I think this is the conch blowing is, and the sound itself is quite auspicious. Nitin, can we just have a quick video on that? Maybe just few seconds.
Yeah, sure, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nitin. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Shall we move to the next?
Yes, we shall move. Now, the next one is my colleague Saiba, and she will be explaining Brahmari to all. Thank you.
Saiba, are you there?
Saiba, you're on mute, Saiba. Saiba, you're on mute. Please allow Saiba to unmute herself.
All right. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Wishing you all a very happy Independence Day, first of all. And I'm here and I will be taking you through the Brahmari Pranayam. Brahmari Pranayam is also known as the bumblebee breath, which is a calming breath practice that can be performed anywhere. So even right now, sitting here, you can perform it. Brahmari is basically the Sanskrit term for a bee, and it is named after the black Indian bee due to the buzzing sound that is produced while we exhale doing the pranayama. Okay, so helping you know some of the advantages of this pranayama, I would say that, I have been doing yoga for a very long time in my life, but I actually did not know about the advantages of doing this particular pranayam when I used to practice. So doing a research, I came to know that it is very, very beneficial for you. So it gives you a constant way to relieve tension, anger, anxiety. It calms down the agitated mind. So whenever you feel that you are angry, practice this pranayam and it will definitely help you out. It helps in improving concentration, memory, building confidence, and cure stress. And I think now the time that we all are living in, post-COVID and at home for so much of time, I think doing this particular pranayam, Brahmari pranayam, is going to help you release the stress that is built up in your mind. Okay, it nurtures peace and also result in self-healing. It is also helpful in lowering one's blood pressure and soothing of the nerves. And the best part is that it benefits the pineal and pituitary glands by stimulating them and thus supporting proper functioning of your throat. It also prevents heart blockages and induces deep sleep. So before I go further, I would like to give you a live demo of how it is done. So if all of you could be with me and do it with me, it's going to be a very interesting concept. So I would like you all to sit in a very comfortable position. I know some of you might be sitting on chairs and it's not really necessary that you sit cross-legged on a mat or somewhere. So just sit on your chair that you're sitting on and keep your spine absolutely straight. Now, when you are straight, you have to close your eyes and your lips and keep your teeth slightly apart. Bring your thumbs to your ears and press them. So you have to close your ears like this. And now you have to keep all your fingers on the crown and spread it, keeping the 2 middle fingers on your eyes. And once you're done, take a deep breath. And while you're releasing, release with the sound like the bee hums. So you can hear the sound that the bee produces, right? To have the best benefit out of this particular pranayam, Brahmari pranayam, it is important that you do it empty stomach or after 5 or 6 hours of food that you've eaten, and practice it at least 10 times regularly to see the best practices. Now, I would like also to help you understand the do's and don'ts while you are doing Brahmari pranayam. Nitin, can we have move to the next slide?
So just wanted to point out that we have our next speaker also lined up.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you just center us all and prepare us for that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Nitin, could you please move ahead? Move the slide. Yep.
Thank you. So these are a few do's and don'ts that you can read for yourself. And I'm not going to take too much of time, otherwise it will take me a lot of time to actually explain them. By then, till then you're doing the reading, I'm going to invite the next speaker from the ILA Delhi chapter, which is Rohit. Rohit, over to you. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed.
Okay, thank you so much, Saiba. Thank you everybody for coming in here. And I hope you can all hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, great. So what I'm going to talk about is a very, very interesting phenomena. Bear with me for some of the sounds that you might hear, nature sounds you might hear from my background. What I'm going to really talk about is something called binaural beats. I want you to put it in the chat box. How many of you have heard of binaural beats or have ever tried binaural beats or solfeggio beats or any kind of beats? Sally says she has. Yagnesh, yes, that's amazing. Superb. Dorothy says she has. So let me just quickly tell you a little bit about binaural beats for people who are hearing it for the first time. So whenever we hear two tones, one in our each, so the binaural beats, the way they are designed is that on both the ears, they would have different frequencies playing. And the idea is that our brain processes a sound at the difference of the beat. And that thing is called binaural beats. By that, I mean, I can give you an example. For example, on your left ear, if you're hearing 132 hertz, and on your right ear, if you're hearing 121 hertz, so the binaural beat that you're hearing is for 11 hertz. So when we pick binaural beats, we pick the one with 11 hertz, and they are done in such a way, they are prepared in such a way that both the sides, they play different kind of hertz, and it works in synergy. Now, you might probably ask that, okay, that's great. That sounds like a calming thing, and it probably is going to calm my mind. But what are the benefits? I would probably want to talk a little bit about the benefits of binaural beats before I move into the brain states quickly. Some of the major benefits are that it really helps. It's actually associated with the mental states which are similar to a meditative practice. Binaural beat reduces anxiety. It increases our focus and concentration to do a particular task. It lowers our stress. It promotes relaxation, promotes creativity, very important. It also helps us manage our pain and foster a positive mood. Binaural beat basically between 1 to 30 hertz creates the same brainwave pattern that you would experience during a meditation practice. When you listen to the beat, your brain waves will synchronize with that particular frequency. We have all been talking about how powerful sound is when it comes to spiritual practice or spiritual alignment. And here in this, today we are talking about leadership through spirituality, having those spiritual values with which we can actually lead. And when we have to make that kind of a spiritual move, it's important that we have certain practices within the spiritual modality with which we can actually facilitate that thing. So I'll talk about the brain waves. I'm sure you might have heard of the various brain waves that we have. Three major brain waves that I want to talk about. First is a beta brainwave, which is between 14 to 30 hertz. It's the waking up consciousness. Right now we are in the beta state. It is used for problem solving, analytical thinking, alertness. When we move on to the next brainwave, that's alpha state, which is between 8 to 14 hertz. Remember, I told you the difference between both the ears. So 8 to 14 hertz, it improves our relaxation. It keeps us more focused, maintains positivity, and it is actually associated with activities that require flow. for example, playing a piano or dancing or doing a certain activity which requires flow, we try to get into that space. Now, the last one is theta state. I'm sure you all have been in that space where you're about to go to sleep, but you're not yet there. You are drifting into the sleep and you're almost there. That's the theta state, which the benefits are, it includes deep relaxation, creativity, meditation. And one very important thing that I want to talk about is reprogramming the subconscious mind. And that's actually my last thing that I want to talk about here is, personally, this thing has helped me to reprogram my own subconscious mind in various facets. So as I said, theta state is this state where you're in a deep relaxation state. So let me just talk a little bit about why reprogramming is required. See, when we talk about we are on the path of spiritual alignment, there are certain things that needs to be worked. For example, our limiting beliefs or de-empowering habits. These things don't just happen automatically. Of course, awareness is required.
So Rohit, actually, what we're doing is we actually have the next speaker lined up as well. And taking on from your session on sounds and being in the theta stage, I'm going to hand over to Manju to introduce our next guest.
Thank you, Shiv. And that was a really amazing insights on the sounds. So moving on, our next speaker speaks about leading with spiritual light. I hope all of you are ready. If you're ready, put up your yes. Are you ready? Yes? With the light in your mind? All right. I create my world. To win outside, we must win at our core first. That's the mantra of our next speaker, Janvi. Having built for 18 years of successful corporate career, along with a perfect family balance, she is on a mission today to make her mantra a living reality. She believes that an individual with self-awareness can shift corporates from stressful Ranabhumi, which is battlefield, to Karma Bhumi, empowering workplace. Amazing, isn't it? So with a big warm welcome, please welcome Janvi to speak to us about leading with spiritual light.
Namaste. Hello and welcome all. And thank you for this awesome introduction, Manju. So we are going to talk about how to strengthen leadership values by backing those with spiritual values. So core values of leader drive their actions and behavior. We know that. And their actions and behavior in turns influences their organizational culture. So if the core values of leaders are only based on training and education they received, their industry experience, and the books they have read, then I think the leadership impact they are willing to create remains limited. Whereas if the leadership values are backed by spiritual values, then the leadership impact is widespread, intimate, and long-lasting. And I believe such leaders not only contribute to their growth, but organizational growth with joy and ease, and also transform the world around them to emerge as a better place. So let's first put leadership into perspectives. Can we bring up the slide, the first slide? Yes, the leadership is a terrain. It's a terrain which is somewhere smooth, somewhere rough, somewhere woody, foggy, cloudy. Look at this terrain. There are two mountains with a deep valley in between with river. A person, let's go next slide. A person, let's say Mr. Anil, gets to the top of the mountain and he faces toward the back side of the mountain. He is excited to see the rich resources like woods, mines and materials, minerals, and he believes that by harvesting and selling these resources, he and his people will draw a huge amount of wealth. So he instructs people on how to do that. Now let's say another person, Next slide. Say Mr. Sunil reaches to another mountaintop. And he also believes that, yes, the resources on the backside of the mountain will draw tremendous wealth, but for short term. He faces towards the valley and he gets fascinated by the flow of river. He believes that this flow will take him and his people away from the hardships of mountains, the uncertain rainfalls, landsliding, and whatnot. He believes that there must be a more bigger and larger market there, down there. So he inspires his people to use the available resources and create the means like boats and rafts to move away to more convenient and habitable areas. So if we look at both these persons are leaders, right? Because they stepped forward from the herd. They managed to get to the top of the mountains with discipline, creativity, and hardships. But their values are different. Mr. Anil believes in driving processes, maintaining order, consistency, using the resources efficiently, and living in today. Whereas Mr. Sunil believes in foreseeing the risk, taking risk for growth, inspiring people. So true leader is the one who not only instructs to survive, but inspires to thrive. I think we all will agree that the goal and vision of every creature on this earth is to survive and thrive. Okay, let's unshare the slides. Now let's spend some moments on spirituality. It is very difficult to define infinity with sets of words. Spirituality is altogether a different terrain. It is a terrain beyond personal boundaries, beyond matters and materials and planet. Right? It is about putting our spirit forward. It is about looking at everything at the level of energy and spirit. It is a journey towards wholeness, and that's why it is individuals' pursuits. So, as a human, we have free will whether to be on this journey or to be ignorant towards it. But the destiny is we all have to be on this journey. Spirituality has a deep-rooted faith that divinity exists in every living being, rather in everything. Divinity manifests itself into the form. The form is our physical, mental, emotional existence. And form is meant to take vivid and richer experiences in the physical world. Whereas the divinity within us is constantly calling and craving to merge with something larger, to belong to something larger. Now, monks and saints are consciously, on purpose, on this journey to merge with divinity. Rest all are unconsciously, unknowingly already on this journey. Let's see how. I would like to bring up a theory. Let's have next slide, just as a reference. So this is a theory of human motivation. I think many would be aware of this, but those who don't know will quickly go through it. This is a hierarchy of needs. At the bottom there, this is a basic need: air, water, food, shelter, reproduction. This is a universal need. Everybody needs it. Then comes the need for safety. Personal safety, physical, emotional, financial safety. Unless these two needs are met, person is not motivated to move to the next, fulfilling to the next need. Next need is love and belonging. We are social animals, so we want connection. We want to be understood and accepted. So we want to connect to our family, our friends, our society and community. Then comes the need for esteem. We all want appreciation and acknowledgement, right? So that's why we try to earn status, prestige, designations, recognitions. We also want to feel confident from within. We want to have sense of freedom and independence. We want to feel that we are in power and we are in control. So these are the needs. There is some argument about this theory that these needs need not to occur in the same sequence shown here. And I think that's true. Some people may not be financially stable. However, they are highly respected by people for their greater virtues and values. Similarly, some people might have earned big status, but they still may be struggling for love and belonging. Let's just understand this theory to understand why we do what we do. Then comes the need at the top, the need for self-actualization. It is about being who we want to be. It is about discovering our true potential, our passion and talents, and expressing them fully and freely. It could be need about having a romantic partner or being a romantic partner to feel whole and complete. It may be about being a parent with a goal of raising confident and successful children. It could be about expressing artistic talents fully and freely. So at this stage, a person is fulfilled and happy with his life. But in spite of this, there's still something missing. There's still some craving goes on. So Abraham Maslow, who put up this theory, he's a psychologist, he brought up another need on top of it, need for self-transcendence. This is a need to seek our eternal truth of our existence, to connect with divinity, to work and direct higher purpose for humanity. So this is about how we thrive in worldly matters. Let's unshare from here. Now, similarly, in yogic practices, we see that in chakra system, the energy moves from bottom chakra to the higher chakra. And as the energy moves upwards and upwards, person experiences higher values like compassion, power of speech, power of influence, clarity of perception, wisdom, oneness, joy, peace, and ecstasy. And such enlightened beings become father of humanity, creator of humanity, the direct humanity towards the greater goodness. So we saw thriving in physical world, in worldly matters, and thriving in the dimension of spirit. So being a spiritual leader, does it mean that we have to merge these two journeys? No. Fundamentally, we all are already on this journey. In spite of our failures, rejections, problem, we are already on the journey of growth. What we need is the consciousness, being aware of that we are on this journey. Now, self-awareness is important value for leaders. Self-aware leaders acknowledge that they are on this journey. At the same time, they acknowledge others' journey and accept them wherever they are. Some may be ahead, some may be behind. So they respect their journey. Self-aware leaders is clearly aware of where exactly he is on this journey. He is clearly aware of what his needs, wants, dreams, desires, and motives are, what his inner powers are, talents, and strengths are, maybe strength of compassion and love and dedication and determination, courage. At the same time, he is aware of his gap with respect to ultimate growth destination, his fears, vulnerabilities, and insecurities. So such self-aware leaders respect their journey. So respect is another important value for leaders. Many organizations have respect as value. I was working with Tatas, and one of the most important value is respect for individual. So self-aware leader is aware of divinity within himself. So he acknowledges divinity within others. Those who have tasted divinity or experienced divinity, even for a flash of second, they would be able to relate to it. Such a person, it is very natural for such a person to become humble and be respectful towards others, not only humans, but to plants, to animals, and towards the nature. So respect is the value. Then comes the trust. The self-aware leader trusts in his own abilities, trust in his journey. So he puts trust in others. Only those who can trust themselves can trust others. Those who have self-doubts, insecurities, they reflect and project same towards the others. So trust is important value. Can you recall any event when you and your people or your team accomplished a task or a project, no matter how impossible it looked in the beginning? What made that happen? How that was possible? So there are two powers in this word, power of sword and power of word, isn't it?
Both the powers are sharp. One cuts through blood and flesh, second cuts through hearts and minds. But to use these powers rightly, to put these powers in right use, we need spirit behind them. We say, right, soldiers and leaders in the battlefield, they have spirit to fight. They have fighting spirit. Similarly, leader in industry need to have spirit behind his words. Influencing is not just about a great communication skill. It is about distributing your spirit to your people. A self-aware leader knows how to do that. Self-aware leader is vulnerable and wholeheartedly he shares his journey of successes, failures, cuts, bruises, traumas, and accomplishment with his people, and allows people to share their journey, and it becomes a collective healing experience. Unless we heal, we cannot thrive. So self-aware leader understands that all of us not only want certainty and comfort, but we also want novelty and adventure. So he enables his people, gives them the challenges to deep into unknown zones, find out their superpowers, and points them to the next possibility. So we all agree that whenever we are interacting with someone, filters are ongoing in our mind. The filters of our values, our attitudes, and our beliefs. A true leader knows how to align to those. So we get influenced by someone who is totally aligning with our frame of reference, or someone shakes upside down. So self-aware leader actually challenges his people. He not only instructs, but asks tough questions to his people. So this level of influencing is known as spiritual influencing. And spiritual influencing is foundation for making a big change. Driving organizational change is a value for leaders. We all know that. Now, before driving a change, leader need to have a clarity, sharp clarity and honesty behind the cause for making the change. So before ever thinking to make the change, such a leader goes to a lone place and asks tough questions to himself. Is he driving the change only because he is authority to make the change? Is he driving the change to improve his image or his organizational image or brand in the world? Or is there any bigger and better purpose towards not only himself, his people, his organization, but beyond that towards the humanity? Leader at the top know that the impact of their change is large, right? So such leaders know the profits and benefits, losses, not only in terms of wealth or finances, but they can relate it to the engaged spirit of his people, engaged spirit of the humanity. So such level of reflective thinking a spiritual leader does. He also looks at the facts, of course. He looks at all the facts. He's observant and curious, absorbs all the facts coming from his team or his people, all that Excel sheet, presentations, Word documents, bar charts and pie charts, all those things. He applies his mental abilities, reasoning skills, and come to the judgments. Now, when he is almost 70 to 80% to decide on something, he again goes back to the quiet place. He closes all his senses and connects to his inner wisdom. With gratitude and reverence, he asks for the inner guidance. He connects to his intuition. Gut feeling is always considered as most reliable because it comes from subconscious and inner wisdom. Now, it may happen that sometimes gut feeling and the external facts may not match. Now, since this leader, not only intuitive leader, he is also all-inclusive and compassionate leader. He cannot take chances with the spirit of his people, spirit of humanity. So he cannot dive hastily to make the change. He inspires his team and people to gather more facts and also goes through intuitive thinking. So such level of thinking gives him more clarity. For spiritual leaders, thinking is a combo of two processes, mental and spiritual thinking. So once this level of thinking is done, his clarity grows. And as the clarity grows, his honesty and trust in the cause grows. And thereby now he is ready to take effective decisions. Effective decision making is important value in leadership. So now, as he moves towards the decision making and has the clarity, only taking a decision is not sufficient. We need to follow. We take many decisions and we drop some decisions. We want power of will behind it. As the clarity grows, as the honesty and trust grows, the power of will grows. And as the power of will grows, courage grows. Now, courage is not absence of fear. Courage is not opposite of fear. Courage is leaders' ability to take action in spite of fear. So such leaders, people believe in leaders who believe in themselves, who believe in their people, and who have courage to take action. Now, after going through all this process, can we just bring up the slide just to have a reference? As the leader and his people go through this entire process of spiritual values and physical, mental, spiritual processes, he makes the change. Now, in spite of this, what if the leader and his people meet with failure? Interestingly, there is no other process. It is the same process the leader has to go through. He understands, he is aware of his journey, so he takes failures and rejections and problems as trigger to grow his wisdom and his people's wisdom and collective consciousness. So he respects the journey. He also reassures trust within his own abilities and his people's abilities, and again challenge them to dive into the unknown zones and find the facts. Let's unshare now. Now, spiritual leader understands that problems are not evil. They don't have solid identity. They are only shadows. These are the areas where light is not reached yet. So he inspires his team to shed more light, find more fact. And as the light is shed, the shadows dissolve, and thereby the problems dissolve. Such level of processes, as much as times the leader and his people go through, eventually the frequency of problems or failures and the intensity of problems reduces and tolerance grows. And such teams are called as resilient teams, and such organizations are called as self-organizing organization. And such leader is called as leader with Midas touch. Now, people who are observing them from distance, they think that, oh, these teams are lucky, these people are lucky, no, there are miracles happening. No, how come everything is falling in place for them? But it is all these processing, spiritual, mental processing is behind the story. So I actually invite and encourage all of you to strengthen your leadership wherever leader you are, maybe in corporates, maybe in your family, or even you may be a self-leader for yourself. Inculcate spiritual values within yourself and thrive. Go ahead and thrive. Now, while this leader consciously puts himself on the spiritual journey, there could be some dilemmas, and it's very common. It's my experience also. Whether to have a growth mindset, prosperity mindset, or should we turn towards the minimalism, sacrifices, and simplicity? Now here, spiritual leader understands the principles of universe. He knows that universe is abundant. There is so much for everyone in the universe. Ideally speaking, poverty shouldn't have been reality of this world, but unfortunately, this has happened. Why that has happened? Because of scarcity mindset. Scarcity mindset that there is no enough in this world. There are few handful people who are abundantly rich, and major section of the world is below poverty line. Why? Because some think that there is not much enough, so I have to hold and grab to feel secure. So this is where spiritual leader becomes the role model. He retains his growth mindset and inspires others to go out and seek more wealth, not only materialistic wealth, but spiritual wealth as well. And he comes forward and becomes the channel. He attracts the prosperity and channelizes it to the people who really need it. So this is where he becomes the role model towards the humanity. Many corporates have this CSR activities. CSR activities should not be only to improve the brand of the corporate or image of the corporate, but they should have spiritual purpose behind doing these activities. They are the channels. Another dilemma spiritual leader has, being compassionate and all inclusive, whether to take everybody along with him or should he select a few. Yeah, this is very normal and sometimes he goes into guilt for selecting people. Now, as he has strong faith into the purpose, into his journey, sometimes he has to select right people in his journey. Ideally speaking, it is not only leader who has to distribute the spirit. It is people who also have to distribute their spirit to the cause. And if someone is not doing it, leader has to go to the core and understand where that person's journey is. Is he somewhere in the survival level, esteem level, or where is it? He assures that person. He supports that person and take along. If that is not possible, then he has to accept his journey and his decision and take the right spirited people to work on the purpose, because purpose is most important. It's the spiritual purpose towards the humanity. So there's nothing to feel guilty about to select right people at right time for the right cause. So I hope you have got some insights into how to lead ourselves, our family, our corporates, and thereby to the humanity with spiritual values.
Thank you, Janvi. That was amazing insights about divinity, leadership, and whatnot, the abundance mindset of a spiritual leader. I just have one question. We have, I request the audience to put out your questions in the chat box. If we have time, we will send out to Janvi. She can answer it later. But just one question that I would like to ask you. How does a spiritual leader handle criticism? Because you know that many of us do not like criticism or just have a fear for criticism. How can a spiritual leader handle criticism?
Oh, yes. Criticism is cost to leadership, and it is inevitable. Anybody moves forward is going to have some criticism, some feedbacks and inputs. So spiritual leaders actually work with criticism from top to bottom, from their top energies to the bottom energies. Right at the top, he thinks about oneness. Is he in one with the people who are criticizing, or he is into mode of dualism? He has to be in the mode of oneness. He has to accept those people. That means there is some bubble coming in the ocean of wisdom, and he has to accept that. First of all, he should become ready for accepting that criticism. Second comes the clarity of perception. He has to understand what is the motive behind the criticism. Is it constructive or it is destructive? So once he has that level of wisdom, he can use power of his speech. He can decide whether to talk about or handle it or whether to ignore it. It's a strong power to ignore something and not to talk about, right? So he uses his power of speech by talking or not talking, and sometimes even by using humor to handle the criticism. Then he can move down to heart and treat himself as wholehearted leader or person and become all-inclusive and accept that this is a journey towards the growth. This is trigger to raise my wisdom. So wholeheartedly, he accepts that since I'm on the journey, I'm not perfect, and it's fine. If somebody is giving me constructive feedback and I know the person's motive, and now I have decided that I have to accept this criticism and handle it, and I want to talk about it, he wholeheartedly accepts the feedback and uses as a trigger to raise his wisdom.
Thank you, Janvi. That takes us to that concept of our whole event, spirituality, the oneness amongst us, the journey towards wisdom. Thank you so much. Please put in your comments in the chat box, in the live blogging. We will be eager to hear from you. And moving on.
Thank you so much, Manju. Thank you, Arunji, Shivraj, and entire ILA team for inviting me. And thank you so much, awesome audiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Please, audience, put in your comments in the chat box, in your live blogging link that is shared at the chat box. All of us are eager to hear from you. Moving on, remember we have winners for active participation in the chat box. 3 winners, 3 active participants would be given amazing vouchers from ILA and Amazon. Moving on, we have an amazing session, a very interesting perspective with a fireside chat. To fireside chat, are you curious? How are we doing? Are we curious enough?
Yes, I can see a lot of people in the chat box responding. And thank you so much, Manju. And of course, Janvi gave us so much to think about in terms of what a good leader should and shouldn't do and what spirituality really entails. Now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next few speakers who join me during this fireside chat. Now, remember, it's a fireside conversation. So I would urge all of you to jump in with your questions in the chat box, and I'll make sure that I pose them to our wonderful speakers. But before I do that, if you notice the slide said something about Jinn perspectives. Now that's a bit of a secret and a mystery, and I'm not going to let our speakers give it away. I was just wondering if all of you logged in were still alert and could give me a sense of what we mean by Jinn perspectives. If you could chat that in. Anyone? What do we mean by Jinn perspectives? You know what? It's a secret, but I'm going to allow our first speaker to demystify. Riti Sinha is the head of training coaching at the Indian Leadership Academy, and a trademark style gives us her insight on spirituality. But before we introduce our wonderful speakers, Riti, do enlighten us about Jinn perspectives.
Is it so difficult when we're talking about
Sayali seems to be the only one who's actually got it right. Riti, tell us what the thinking was behind it.
No, so is it so difficult when we're talking of spirits?
Oh, you mean jinns, you need to play on the word.
I don't know. Let's throw it out to the audience.
So Sayali's got it right. Sayali says that Jinn perspectives is about Germany, India, and Norway. I think she's just taken the prize away and the mystery away. So without much ado, let me go across to Norway. Absolutely. Let's go across to Norway, to Oslo, to Rani Nair, who is a mother of 2 and a kindergarten teacher, but she's also, very importantly, a faculty member of the Art of Living Foundation and disciple of Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. She's also a qualified teacher with the International Association for Human Values. Her interests lie between Ayurveda, Vedic agriculture, and Mandala Vatika. Also joining us from Germany, Eva Maria Scheig. Eva, I hope I got your last name right. A business leader, a transformation consultant, coach, speaker. She is really very experienced in large systems integration and has consulted with a lot of companies. She's very passionate about mixed leadership. She loves working with internal family systems approach. So let's begin. You know, Riti, I think we've had a very fruitful first part of the day. A lot's been said, and we've been focusing on spiritual values, leadership, and applying it to today's modern context. But if I were to ask you to just break it down very simply from all that you've heard and your expertise, what it means to incorporate all this in our daily lives.
Well, Shiv, a lot of speakers from morning have said a lot of things which are very common in spirituality. And I would break down, since you're asking me to break it down, I'll go backwards, right? Let's look at modern context. How has modern context changed for us? It's become more fast-paced, it's become more materialistic, it's become more competitive. Aspirations have increased, ambitions have increased, right? What is this doing to us? What is this really doing to us? We are giving people more power to affect us than what power we had given to them earlier, right? These are having repercussions on us, not only emotionally, mentally, physically, all the repercussions. Now, in this hustle bustle of things, we are actually losing our connection to ourselves. And I know a lot of speakers have spoken of self-awareness, but this is something, I want to talk to you about. And I would just give you one simple example of something that Jim Carrey said, a while ago. If you know what who Jim Carrey is a comedian. Jim Carrey said, depression is not a negative form of mental health. Depression is when your body is asking for deep rest. Your body, your soul is asking for deep rest from the character and the avatar that you have created for yourself and for the world outside. It's saying, give me a break, give me a pause. I don't want that reality. So that's what this whole thing is about. And that is spirituality. We are being pulled in so many different directions, right, Shiv and Rani? You would agree. We have strings attached to ourselves and we're constantly being pulled. So now modern context is taking us there. Now, how do you inculcate spirituality in it? Look at it like this. People have been saying we are leaders in our daily lives. I would say your body, your soul is an organization in itself. And you have to manage that first, the way a leader would manage an organization before you go out or even go into your inner self, right?
Absolutely.
So you have to know what we do, how we do it, why are we doing it, what is our purpose of doing things. So now if you have asked me to break it down, this is how I'm going to break it down in the modern context. There are certain repercussions we are facing. Use spirituality as a strategy to run an organization called yourself.
Wow.
Right? So that's my perspective. So don't be in that state of a race. You're not in a race against anyone. You go back, and that's something Dr. Manmeet said. Go back to your purpose. Go back and see, as a leader, how can I run this organization which is within me before I start running organizations which is outside of me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Riti. Now coming to you, Rani, I think what Riti said was very interesting, the organization within you. Now you operate in the sphere across the oceans in Europe. You're looking at spirituality in that context. What are you witnessing in terms of transformation in the way people are thinking about themselves, about human values, connected with what Riti just said? It's about that first organization of yourself. Are you seeing people also transforming the way they're approaching spirituality in the West?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, thank you very much. An honor to be here. So let me just begin with what Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar says about spirituality. He says, simply put, it's anything that lifts your consciousness or lifts your spirits in a way. So what would you include in that? Anything that gives you happiness, joy, makes you compassionate, makes you connect with yourself, connect with others. So if you go on a long spiritual journey, what would you get as a byproduct? Is an unconditional happiness. Your happiness is not dependent on how things are, how events are, but you're still happy. And the other byproduct is an unshakable peace that you want. When there's chaos outside, you want to move on. So these are two byproducts. Now, have you known any human being who's not looking for happiness and peace? There isn't anyone, right? So basically, if you look, being spiritual is being human. Right? So every human being is on a spiritual path, whether they acknowledge it or not. And in addition, if you look at spiritual values, you say they're the same as human values, right? So we can also come back to the journey that human beings have gone from being, industrial revolution, the economic development, technological development, and we've come to a stage where, in spite of all comforts, we're looking for something more. There is something more to life than just, success and prosperity. And those things are spirituality. So I would say in a way that being spiritual is smart and it is trendy.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting, Eva, because you delve very deeply into issues of leadership. Now, how we manifest ourselves also has a great implication how you lead. Right. So how would you say, taking on from what Riti and Rani said, is spirituality really connected to effectively leading?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, so building on what was said before, like yourself, you are an organization you need to lead. So then how about leading yourself before you lead others, right? So what do you need to actually do? When I reflect back on my first leadership role, I was an earlier stage of leading myself and I had a different style, right? And I was maybe wondering why people would react to my style the way they did. And nowadays I'm more aware. I can help people to be more aware. And then we have this kind of meta-awareness of being aware that you can be aware. And it's a question of also when you're leading, which level are your people at, right? Which level is the team at that you are leading? Do they understand the level where you are? Do they understand where they are? How can I help them to actually progress on the journey? Are they open to do that? And then the leadership style, may influence how they work, how they feel, and which leadership style do I want, right? What do I do when I'm in crisis? Do I revert back to some authoritarian command and control, or am I mature enough to actually stay calm even in crisis and not revert back to old styles, so to say? So it's a question of leading yourself. Can you be clear, compassionate, courageous, confident, curious, creative, calm, and connected? So wow, that's a big thing to do. And knowing where you are on the journey helps you to actually, lead teams.
And you talk about awareness and meta-awareness. So if I were to go around to all of you and ask you a very simple question, what is the true litmus test of spirituality?
Good question, Shiv. So, I have 3 points here. One, in the beginning, when Kaushik broke some myths about spirituality, there's another myth which says there is a presence of I and there's a presence of self, and that's a myth. There is no I, there is only self. However, when we talk of it from the context of leadership, the I and the self become the we, right? So it is about the we. And when we are talking about the spirit of a spiritual leader, right? The litmus test for me, the ultimate litmus test is, are you having an unconscious influence in the person's life? Is my litmus test. I don't have to be present in your life to influence you. But if I am unconsciously influencing you, if I have that sort of a presence, they say that when you're ready, the master appears. There is no perfect master, right? There is no perfect master. What is perfect, though, is the influence that I choose to have on my own self. Right? So there are 2 things here. There are 2 ways I can create a connection when I'm doing a litmus test. Either I do what I love doing, right? Or I find a spiritual purpose in everything I do and I start loving what I do. So these are my 3 points to a litmus test. I don't know if it makes sense, but that's my...
No, absolutely. And Eva, we've also delved into this idea of leaders who truly lead with the absence of fear. How important is removing fear and judgment from the equation?
If you remove fear and judgment from the equation, you have an open mind to actually listen to what is, right? And you're not imposing what your mental model is saying and pushing others to do what you believe has to be done to be safe, right? So then you can actually allow things to happen without trying to really make 100% sure that they do exactly what you want to do as a leader. So because otherwise you are not safe as a leader, or you perceive you're not safe as a leader. And I grew to be a bit fearless at one point in time when I realized, okay, actually, what should happen, right? Okay, maybe I lose the job I'm doing right now, but then maybe that's not the right job for me anyway, and not clinging on to it. And I also differentiate in organizations, in managers, between soldiers and entrepreneurs, if you will, right? The soldier is just you get an order from the top, and you just need to execute. And then even if your mental model says, no, this is wrong, I shouldn't be doing this, but yeah, you are paid by the corporate, so you have to do it. And I've seen people turn sick over that. And I have opted to not work for such leaders, even if I had to give away the full team I was leading, and I was staying behind trying to find a new role, because I just said, no, I'm not going to work for this type of person. And you can choose, right? And is that fear or not? How are they driven? Or is it because they believe they need to obey, so to say, rules? But I think fearlessness has a lot to do with it, right? You make your own judgment, you do what you think is right, even if it's contradicting the orders from the top. Okay, can be risky, but enjoy the ride.
So between the I and self and the removal of fear, Rani, how important, because you do slip if you're not authentic and transparent, how important are those values? Authenticity and transparency.
Right. So, like we were talking about litmus test earlier, one of the things is how quickly do you bounce back, right? So how quickly do you have a smile on your face in spite of all the chaos that's going on? That if we have, authenticity and transparency comes in very easily. It's like going to work and not taking off your backpack and not taking off your water bottle, keeping all on your back and doing all the work. It's going to be tough. You keep your bag away, you can work much lighter and much effectively. And that is where transparency and authenticity comes in. When you don't have any baggages, through your spiritual practices, your mind is free of those baggages. Then you're much simpler. And when you're authentic, you don't have to remember, oh, what rule, what should I put up here? You're just yourself, and you're comfortable. So there is nothing much, you don't give rise for stress to come up as well. So authenticity and transparency, very, very important.
And I love the analogy you use of removing the baggage, because of course you're a teacher and you witness at the most base level, the most pure manifestation of spirituality, because as we get older, we get very judgmental, right? And there are all these layers of complexity and stress. So before I come to all of you, for all of you who logged in, we've heard so much during the day, and you've had our speakers in this fireside chat really break it down very simply, use simple analogies from their own experience. From your experiences, if you could just chat in, how would you believe you can get initiated in what many are calling the science of spirituality? Because it is, let's face it, we're talking about very, 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 very methodical ways that you can get initiated. Anyone, if you could chat that in, that also give us great talking points, right, for this conversation. It is, after all, a fireside chat. So coming back to Riti, while people are sort of mulling over the issue, the kind of context, and this is important for all three of you because you represent different geographies as well. The pandemic, how important in this context we exist in right now, this uncertainty, is spirituality, whether it's conscious or subconscious?
So Shiv, I just go back to when I like that point where you mentioned that spirituality is science, and I really want to bring in the concept of shunya here, concept of zero, right? So there is this concept which says nothing is actually the source of everything, right? Now, if you look at it, if I have to just give you a very brief, and I'm sure everyone here understands maths, I start with a zero, right? When I add a +1, it goes ahead, and I add a -1, it goes ahead. So zero by itself is a very neutral state. And that is what spirituality says. That's where initiation starts. That are you, like Rani said, remove your baggage. Removing your baggage is going into that state of neutrality, right? And then you add your positive emotion or your negative emotion. So it's a +1 or a -1, right? So when you add that integer is your state of being, which takes you from a state of zero to something, nothing to something, nothing to everything, right? Now, another concept I would want to say, when you said pandemic, I just imagined that what the universe has thrown on us right now, it's like shaken us up. It's actually parked diagonally in a parallel state. Can you imagine being parked diagonally in a parallel parking? It's like this, right? Now what happens? When you're parked diagonally, you're uncomfortable. Yeah, you're uncomfortable with change. But however, when you spoke of pandemic, yes, things have shaken up, businesses have shaken up, incomes have gone up. If we have to bring a spiritual angle here, it's all about saying we are shaken up, but look at the possibilities. You're in a state of shunya, but there is always a +1 or there is a -1. Now it's up to you to make that choice which scale you want to fall in.
It's very interesting because we're getting a lot of chat in saying that, the pandemic, and sorry about my dog, it kind of has put spirituality on a pedestal and made us look at it like a mirror. Like Purvi Patel said that, and we've also got Sayali and Rashmi Keshwani chatting in. Rani, coming to you, earlier Dr. Maneet had talked about this idea, taking off from the idea of shunya, actually just looking at getting centered and doing nothing. It's really tough, right? How important is doing nothing to really bring you back to where you need to be?
See, we all experience that state when we are extremely happy. You have a birthday or you're feeling something. You're so happy you got this car. That few minutes, we experience it every day, actually. So it's just about expanding that. When you meditate, you do your practices, you expand the amount of time you experience that. And every time you go into that state, you get energy from it. So it's difficult if you haven't done it before, if you don't know it, but it's very easy and very simple. And as children, we were more in that state and we just added more layers. Like you were saying, we were stressed with something, some memories, they got stuck. So, and we just add on and we don't know how to clean that from our minds. And if we knew like I think someone, Kaushik was saying earlier, like, you need to do it right from childhood. When you know how to clean your body right from childhood, it's like that, or clean your mind right from childhood, you have a cleaner mind and with lesser baggage. And your experience is already there. So it's not really very difficult. And the more you do it, the more you like it. You go back to doing it more and more. That's been my experience.
That's very interesting because Eva, coming back to you, when you work with corporates and they come in and they tell you, look, we have a crisis in leadership or we have a crisis in decision making. How important is what Preeti and Rani said, A, going back to square one, B, recognizing that the pandemic has made all our straight lines crooked, like Preeti said. How important is the uncertainty and dealing with it at the leadership level?
So, I mean, if you look at an acronym like VUCA, it's a very volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world. I started to say that to my teams several years back. Stay sane in VUCA. You need to find a way to actually manage yourself, right? Because if you have constant change in the corporate world and you are reorganized every 2 years, then you need to actually be very centered around that. So, but not everyone is going on that journey. Also, not leaders, right? So when I was in a situation where I was asked to actually help the change, and then I came back after a few workshops. I said, 2 of the leaders want to be part of the change, but 2 of the leaders wait for the change to be done to them, and I was really unable to actually engage them in the journey, right? And so I was also, maybe the morning curve comes from the morning cycle, but you can also use it to change change processes. So I was asking also the leaders, where are you on that journey? And what do you think the 3 most closely working people that are working closest with you, where are they? Of course, every leader wants to be ahead of their own team, but it made them really become aware of, okay, I'm in this curve. I need to accept the change. And then I need to help my team to actually accept the change. And I think we have the same in the pandemic. Quite a few people are just, all the distraction is taken off. They are not there. And I've heard quite a few people who said, I never thought I could do this, practice yoga at home. I always need to be outside and in the studio. And now I realize I can just be fine with myself and just do it at home and find a new calmness. Because if you accept the change and you go through it, then the pandemic can have that positive effect. Of course, it has many difficult aspects too.
Absolutely.
But maybe it's a luxury to be able to have that calmness in your own place where you live, and not everyone is so fortunate to do that. But yeah, some of the people actually go through that curve here and find a new way of dealing with themselves and being just with themselves and realizing they don't need all this external distraction.
And finally, because I'm aware we literally have a minute, if you just go around and get a sense of what your key takeaways, each one of yours would be from today after listening to all these fabulous speakers and, your insights as well.
For me, I think, my key takeaway would be live a life free of fear and judgment, right? Either you find what you love and do what you love, or start loving what you do by finding your spiritual purpose, right? My third key takeaway was stop looking at life transactionally. Spirituality is a strategy for your own internal organization, okay? And take a pause. It's necessary. Sometimes the power of pause in life gives you that stillness, gives you the connection, the connection to your own organization as a leader, right? And do whatever. I mean, you could do art, you could do music, you could do gardening, whatever you do. But if you love doing it, do it, increase time with it, and that is your power of pause.
That's absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Reeti, Rani, and Eva. And for everyone who's logged in, I think what interesting conversations we're having in the course of the day. Do go to our blog. There's a live blog there. And of course, most active participants will get access to gift vouchers. But Eva and Rani, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Oslo and from Germany. And of course, Reeti from Bangalore, and giving us your Jin perspective.
Thank you.
At this point, I'll hand over to Manju to take on our next fabulous speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.